Lagos Rocks 91.3. We have a very exciting topic to touch on today, and I believe that this was inspired by a popular topic that trended a couple of weeks back. It's about the superstar music maverick Kanye West and a whole lot of controversies that he has been embroiled in recently. But this one in particular is about a certain former assistant of his, which happens to be female.
Now, this woman known as Lauren Pisciotta has alleged that she was sexually harassed by Kanye West, and she also had a couple of text messages to back this up. Now, in a lawsuit, she alleged Kanye West sent her lewd texts and performed sexual acts while he was on the phone to her. Now, she also claims that she was fired as far back as 2022, but that when she was fired, she was never paid a severance package, which was said to be at least $3 million. Now, Kanye West initially never spoke about this, but his lawyer has come out to clear it. Now, we know that she was a personal assistant, and she was said to have, earned at least $1 million on the condition that she was made available to him 24 hours, 7 days a week.
Whoa. And this $1 million, is this like all throughout the time or like every month?
I don't know if it's all through the year. Yeah.
So that's her annual salary.
And also, we know that according to documents, before she started working with Yeezy, she had an OnlyFans account. So that's why I feel like because of this, so many people have been quick to allude her lawsuit to her just trying to extort Kanye West. But the thing now is, according to her, she said that he sent her so many messages, and some of the transcript I saw of what he spoke about, he was on the phone with her and he was touching himself and saying some naughty things. He even went on to ask her if his privates was racist, indicating that it would only, arise to a woman of a certain color or ethnicity.
Okay.
Yeah, so I can't go because it's quite vulgar, but she also said that he bombarded her with explicit texts and some pornographic videos as well. Okay. So according to her, of course, she might not be happy about this, and maybe Kanye also felt like, oh, you're someone who has, prior to when I met you, probably your line of work was something sensual, but she wasn't having it. Now, she claimed that aside, pleasuring himself while speaking to her, occasionally, once he did it in front of her after trapping her in a private room on his plane.
Whoa.
That's what she's saying now. However, his lawyer has come out to say that she is just aggrieved because she was terminated for being unqualified, and she's just demanding an unreasonable amount of money,
including an annual salary of $4 million. And they also accused her of lascivious, unhinged conduct, claiming that she consistently used sexual coercion to demand money and material items, including designer bags and a Lamborghini car. And the statement further alleged that after Kanye West rejected her advances, that she attempted to blackmail him for $60 million. Wow, I feel like this story is so heavy, and like there are several parts to it, but I want to establish something. Let's get this very clear, that even prostitutes can be raped. Prostitutes can be sexually assaulted. And the fact that she has an OnlyFans, and I'm in no way talking about either supporting or not supporting it, but stating facts that because she has an OnlyFans account does not make her any less prone to being abused sexually or raped. I don't like when people want to discredit the person. If at all she truly was a victim, trying to discredit her, saying, well, the job that you already do goes to show that you're already a loose person. I don't know, what that line of thinking is, but I think that's something that must be established, that even if that is your line of business,
you have a right to know.
You
say no.
The word is there is consent. If you do not consent to it, you are being abused, you are being raped in the case where there's sexual intercourse. But I want to know how far this case has gone, right? Because this is her coming out to make these accusations. Now we understand that there is already a power play or a dynamic there between them, him being the boss and she being, his worker. So any sort of like sexual conduct, so to speak, that is being engaged between the both of them, chances are that it could be seen. Because even when you take a look at it from like maybe like a more like corporate perspective as well, that in itself, there are some organizations that have that as their rules, like in their rule book. Like once it's seen in that manner, the sexual misconduct comes from the boss as opposed to even the subordinates that is having a relationship with him. It's seen as sexual misconduct because there is already a power dynamic between that relationship within the corporate world or within that business or that organization. Now, that being said, it would be nice if they also have like evidence, because obviously I'm not expecting that they come out to accept that indeed Kanye West did this or did that. But if they are maybe countersuing or they are responding to that lawsuit and they're saying that, well, she used her sexual advance, it would be nice to see if at all they have evidence. Proof. Exactly, there's evidence to that. Was it a sexual relationship between the both of them, or was it indeed her trying to use her feminine parts to get whatever favors that she was asking for? It'll be nice if there is evidence.
So according to one of the most popular blogs in America, it says that she met him as far back as July 2021, and she collaborated and worked with him on 3 of his songs on his last album, Donda. Right now, during that period, she said he came to her and wanted to be godlike, and he asked for her to delete her OnlyFans account while promising to pay her $1 million for a year if she did so, and she agreed to it. She deleted it.
So okay, so it's very interesting now, because getting this particular report,
the messages.
I want to know, so was she working for him as his assistant, or did they have a completely different relationship, maybe like an amorous relationship? Because we want to know, is she his former assistant, or is she his
she
side
was once
chick?
she was once his former assistant.
Okay,
but what started as collaborating on projects,
recruited from OnlyFans.
Yeah,
because for an assistant, the skill set that a personal assistant requires and the skill set of an OnlyFans purveyor, they don't align. It's a mismatch.
So the thing is, there's some shameful text and there's a transcript. I can't read them all out, but someone says, one of them says, "See, my problem is I be wanting to but then after I want a girl to tell me how hard they've been while I'm them. Then I want to cheat. Then I want her to cheat on me." Then she says it got really vulgar, and there were more messages from Kanye, just describing his sexual fantasies with women with a lot of explicit language. So see, he says, "Is my private racist? It is. This racist of mine. I'm going to beat this racist for being racist."
So I want to, because these different clearly vulgar messages. I want to know, was it an exchange or was it him?
It was sending it to her. It was just him sending to her.
That clearly is very inappropriate. If that is his assistant,
exactly.
Right? So if she's come out and she's decided to sue him, well, let the court do their thing. Let them do their thing, because now his defense is putting out, that's his lawyers, I beg your pardon, is putting out is that she clearly was already using her body or maybe sexual acts to get what she wanted. So it would be nice to know, at the end of the day, did they have a relationship, or has it always been a case where she's his assistant and then he's putting out all those texts and she's uncomfortable, but then she will not say anything because that's my boss. A lot of times that happens even beyond the music industry, where that you're being sexually assaulted, abused or whatever, and you're not able to speak up because you either the culture of shame, or you're afraid you're going to lose your job, you're afraid that it's going to work against you. We did make reference to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, where you made mention that the permanent secretary had been doing that to other women as well. Chances are that those other women may not have spoken out to the extent that which this other woman spoke out, because they probably feared that they would lose their jobs. They didn't want that to be a case. They have mouths to feed and stuff like that. So if in the case of Kanye, if they could prove this in court, we're definitely looking forward to seeing how that turns out. But you see, what this particular case on social media, it's sort of the story segued into a completely different conversation. That's what we wanted to touch on, because we're going to keep following this case. We're going to see what the courts say, and if at all they actually settle outside the court, that now makes it even look true, and Kanye even look more suspicious. A lot of these alternative dispute resolution, especially in cases like this, or all these out of court settlements, a lot of times looks as though the person is guilty. We saw what happened with Diddy before that video came out. The out of court settlement already started looking very weird, and people started saying, well, if you are not really guilty, why are you settling out of court? So we'll keep following this Kanye story. Now, the story that came out of, or should I say the conversation that came out of this particular story, was people on social media then started asking, is it appropriate for a man to have a female assistant, and is it appropriate for a woman to have a male assistant? Please note that this is in no way us even saying for a second that is the reason why maybe she deserved being sexually abused or so. No. I'm just trying to say that this is a conversation that came out of it on social media, and I want us to touch on that. Away from cases of sexual abuse, away from cases of sexual assault, the conversation about women who outrightly, during that conversation on social media, coming out to say, I will never allow my husband have a female assistant. I will never, even if it's at the office, so even if it was the office that gave him that assistant, I will completely not agree to it and probably make a whole issue out of it. So there are women that gave their different instances about, a lot of times it's not really the work that they're doing, that they're there to seduce their guy, another way around, So this is not about really what I think, but we're going to have this conversation. There were so many things that were said that were very absurd rather, and you begin to wonder, but we're not going to take away from the fact that this has been something that in the past a lot of women have had issues with. It's not just a new age thing, it's not a Gen Z thing, it's not a millennial thing. If you speak to your mothers as well, you would hear a lot of them saying that they had an issue with their husbands having female secretaries or female assistants and what have we. So I want us to talk about that, and I also definitely want to get the takes of a lot of the men who are listening as well. So ladies, let's jump into that conversation. But what are your thoughts about women coming out to demonize the thought of their husbands having female executive assistants or personal assistants?
You know what? I'm going to try to say my opinion from the angle of a man, speaking on behalf of this. Now, This is a man that I respect so much, and this happened as far back as 4 years ago, 2020. Now, the General Overseer of the Redeemed Christian Church of God, he spoke one day and he said, at one point in time, he asked his son to sack his female secretary in order to avoid infidelity.
Interesting.
Now, this caused uproar. So many people were like, is a lack of discipline on the part of the man. Now, he said this and he spoke. He also made it known then it was Twitter, his ex account. And he said, and I quote, if there is any fellow aside from your spouse you're admiring unduly, you must see such a person as the devil and get rid of them. And he also spoke that nothing concerns a man with having a female assistant. Now, he also said, one of my sons told me he was always excited to resume in the office every Monday because he would get to see his secretary again. I told him to immediately fire her. Nothing and no one is worth your marriage. What is a married woman doing on the phone with another man for countless minutes? Why would a married man be spending so much time with another man's wife? Why would you prefer to discuss intimate issues with, in quote, your friend of the opposite sex instead of your God-given spouse?
He does make a point there.
Of course. Now he says, you might say, I'm not doing anything with the fellow, we're just friends. And that's exactly where it begins from. The devil knows you're a Christian and would not fall for someone just like that. So he makes you become good friends with them. Before you know it, you have fallen. Many of you might not fall for any strategy of the devil, or rather, may you not fall for any strategy of the devil, in the mighty name of Jesus. And he, so
Amen.
This is someone that was honest. And I remember just thinking like gold. Diamond.
But this, first of all, I would say that this entire tweet, I don't know that he was one who wrote it by himself. I mean, he's an old man. I doubt he would be on social
Maybe he
media,
was narrating
trying to. I do agree to a large extent some of the things that he said. However, there are some things that I will not necessarily align with. A lot of times, these messages or such tweets are hinged upon certain happenings. Either something happened, something was going to happen. It was not an isolated incident. I doubt, based on how he narrated this, that it was something that he just had like a light bulb moment about and then decided to tweet. It probably must have come from somewhere. Now, considering that it must have come from somewhere, I can understand him 100%. Who knows? Maybe he had a counseling session with someone who came in to tell him that this was what was going on. He even made reference to say that if you are so excited to go because you want to go and see your secretary already, you know that there is an issue there. So these are underlying things that already exist, and it's not a case, it was not an isolated incident.
No, it's not.
Would I say that, a woman or a female, like a woman, should have no business being secretary to a man? I wouldn't say that. I don't think so. I feel like if you've worked hard, and if you got there on merit, you deserve it. If you do your job well, why not? But would I say that if you, as a man who is already in a position of authority, who already has these sorts of feelings for this person that you've been seeing, and please let's understand something, right? We're going to be very honest. We're not going to beat around the bush.
Okay.
We are human beings, right? I believe that 90% of your time is spent at work. Just think about it. You wake up early in the morning, you're bolting because you don't want to get into traffic. Your resumption time is maybe 8:30 or 9. And then at the end of the day, it's not really a 9 to 5 if you think about it, because by the time you're wrapping up, you're leaving the office maybe 6:30, 7, you get back home and like clockwork, it happens again. So 90% of your time is being spent at work. Chances are that as a human being, you begin to develop a bond with the people that you're not only seeing every day, but you're spending time with every day. How much more someone that you're working in close proximity with? And that's the reason why there are people who don't play with all this type of, my work husband, my work wife. I personally, I'm just like, don't do that. But that aside, right? You're spending this much time with the person. So if a man is honest enough to say, you know what, it's like I'm developing feelings for this person. I'm getting attached. Because we are also emotional beings, right? We're very complex human beings, complex beings. And so you acknowledge that you are already feeling this way for this person, and you feel like for you to not only get your job done better, but to also protect your marriage, because you also don't want to maybe engage in any amorous relationship with that person. If you go and make a request to the HR to be like, I would like to maybe get this person redeployed, it's understandable. In fact, it's a noble thing. True. Because you already see it coming from afar. It's very much understandable where you've seen that and that's the case. However, if that is not the case, and someone decides that, okay, I think it's very inappropriate that you have a female assistant, I 100% do not agree with that. But if you as the person, or even you as a woman, let's not even make it seem as if it's just the man being the boss and then the woman being the secretary. We see it's the other way around as well. It may not be talked about as often as the dynamic of the man being the head and the woman being, the secretary, or no, I'm not talking about marriage, the secretary, right? But it does happen where there's a female boss and then there's a, male secretary or assistant or whatever the case might be. So even as you as a woman, you've seen that and you want the person redeployed to a different department, if you go and ask your HR, I'm sure it's something that can be considered, right? Let's not be, funny about, control yourself, I get it, control yourself. Obviously, you know, don't sexually abuse the person. We're not even talking about sexual abuse here. We're talking about engaging in a relationship where it now becomes consensual, where it now becomes a thing where you're excited to go and see your male assistant, or you're excited to go and see your female assistant. Sorry,
I like the word excited.
So like when you see that is a problem and you make that request, I'm sure your HR will be considerate of it. It may not mean that they might yank the person out immediately, but it's something that you're engaging with, you're discussing with your HR. I get it. I get that type of situation. So people who say that type of thing cannot happen, blah blah blah, if you have self-control, then you're not being honest. We're not talking about it from a place of sexual abuse. We're talking about it from a place of bonding with someone, because you are seeing them every day, and because you people are now, you know, you found some rapport beyond just work. You know, you start talking about other things, talk about life, you know, talk about maybe some emotional issues, and then it starts going on from there. So I get it.
But you know what, Ify, I will say is a two-sided coin. On one side, I will tell you, I'm not a snitch and I don't want anyone to regret having employed me, but I've worked in at least 2 places that I saw that happen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and one was so brazen that when she went on maternity leave, she was harassing an intern who stood in for her. That's one. 2, there was sometime last year, I was with my cousin Sonia. We went for someone's birthday Salah party, and they were talking about a bank mogul who just passed away. Now, he didn't have an affair with his secretary, but she knew so much about the business that even the wife depended on her.
Oh, wow.
For information. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Some of these men entrust more to these secretaries than their wives, because you're my wife, you're at home, I don't want to bother you. Okay. But know that even when they're not working during the weekends, they're calling these assistants to get things done. Now, it's easy for that line to thin out and blur from trusting so much to someone, to just seeing them unhappy and saying, how can I make you happy? From leaning on them, crying. I know someone who would pack lunch for herself where I worked before, and August food was there.
Wow.
Now, you know, you would hear things like, she's walking through the hallways, she's harassing people, she's saying things like money be fine, but all this rubbish. Like, she would act out of character because she felt she could never be disposed. She was indisposable. And I just feel like, coming from Pastor Iya Deboye, this is a man that has seen all sides of it. He may have been counseling couples and this was a recurring issue. For him to address this with his son, he's actually saying this from a good perspective. Yes, there is discipline, but sometimes, even in temptation, the Bible tells you flee. You might be disciplined, but you're prone to weaknesses. You're human.
True, you are prone to weaknesses, but I also don't want us to take away the role of responsibility. Whilst I understand that as human beings and as emotional beings, the more you see someone, the more you probably attach to the person, the more you want to spend time with the person. But it is up to you to set boundaries. That is your responsibility as a person. And so, in as much as, yes, I see you every day, like for instance, I see my colleagues, they're male colleagues that I have. I may not necessarily be working directly with them, or I may be working directly with them, but they may not necessarily be my assistants, but I see them every day. But there are boundaries that I have set. Right? And I have seen them every day. For how long have I worked here? For so many years. Do you get what I mean? I set boundaries. So whilst and my first submission still stands, because there are times where you grow in emotional connection and attachment with the person, right? But you must understand that the onus is on you to set boundaries. You're an adult, right? So if you know that there are conversations that are not appropriate for your professional relationship with someone, don't
shy away from it.
If you know that there are things that are very dear to you that will obviously elicit certain types of emotions from that person, if you share it with that person, then please don't do that. So yes, maybe over time, because you were working on a project together, we were seeing each other every day and all that happens, but most of the time that may not be the case. Most of the time it was that you did not set clear boundaries, and you guys started having, these feelings for each other.
What about some people are very strategic? Now, there's a man who has discipline. He doesn't want an affair. He just wants you to do your job. But you know that the office place is also a political playfield where people are looking to climb. People don't want to be dispossessed or deposed of their position. So these women might leverage on it. If a man is working so hard, tired, occupied. Oh, first off, you're relieving him. Some of these women also prey on it, and it goes both ways. A male assistant who can prey on that person. You're under pressure. They're asking you things that no one, maybe these are busy people. They're not used to being given that kind of attention and concern. They're used to catering for everyone, but they don't have anyone do it for them. So it's easy. And then maybe they're going home, their spouses are complaining of work hours. Then they come back and tell that person, and that person is giving them counter advice to what is the right thing. It's easy to develop like an amorous relationship. Like, I feel like if you have to have an assistant of the opposite sex, I know if you're disciplined, not everyone is like that. It's not easy for some people to walk away from that. Now, Kanye may have been careless in his own, but some people, they see it coming on, but they just feel like they're, undefeated, they're infallible, they can't fall for it. And before you know, boom, it creeps on you and then it takes over you. It can begin from a touch on the shoulder to, oh, have you eaten, to compliments and commendations, and it just keeps on, and then you just notice you're looking forward to it. Whatever attention you're getting, you're lapping up. They're changing their style, and they're changing your own style. They're telling you, sir, this color makes you look. It's easy to just fall.
So I do agree with you in some points that you made. Man, know thyself. That's very important.
True.
When you know yourself, self-awareness, one of the greatest gifts that you can give to yourself. When you know yourself, when you know where you're coming from as well. And when I'm talking about coming from, I'm talking about your relationship with the opposite sex.
True.
Right? You know that you're one person who, listen, if she just gives me a wink, that's it.
I
just need a wink. I just need a wink, then I just know to approach.
Right.
So like there are people, yourself, and you want to live a better life, and
True.
you want to open a much better life filled with discipline. So you understand yourself, so you don't also want to put yourself in positions that might be compromising, and that's where you as an adult and you setting boundaries and you being intentional comes into play. I'm not also saying that there aren't women who prey on that as well. There are women who do that. Will I be able to tell you now based on the ratio, like which is more? Is it more women that prey on it, or is it more a case where it's like clearly the guy is harassing them? I may not be able to, say that. However, I feel like you as well, especially being the boss, because the responsibility is both ways, but in the eyes of your shareholders, for instance, the boards of director, the owners would lie more on you as the boss
in authority. True.
Because there's already a power dynamic, and so they would, because now this other person can say, oh well, you know what, I wasn't open to it, but because I realized that this is my boss, and I also didn't want to get on my boss's bad side, and so I decided to agree with I was pressured to it. And you know what, if she goes and says that, she's well within her rights to say that. Right? She's all in her right to it, because it could be true.
And they will tell you
she's
agreeing
better to it just because let me just, is my boss,
secure my place.
I just I don't want them to sack me and stuff like that. And that's the reason why a lot of times it is seen as harassment, even if they will come out and say, oh no, maybe they were in a relationship together, but because of that power play there, you as the boss, you are responsible to a large extent to ensure that the boundaries are set. Because you are in a marriage, it is also up to your husband to make you feel secure. I don't believe in people who say things like, oh well, it's not his responsibility, it's not your spouse's. That's a lie from the pit of hell. Both parties, if your woman is feeling insecure because she has seen another woman, and I'm not saying that maybe it's a woman that, to be fair, I was going to say give a disclaimer and say, okay, it's not all those women that look for trouble, whether she look for trouble or not. If you see that your woman it's up to you as a man to make her secure. The same way, if you see that, okay, is this the person that is now the person that is working in your department, and he looks exactly like her spec, maybe exactly like her ex-boyfriend before you got married to her, and you're just like, but babe, you didn't work late before, but now you're working late, and I see that it is exactly when he started working with you that he started working late. Exactly. It's up to you as a woman to make your husband also feel secure. So whilst I do say that we are also adults, even within relationships, within marriages, yes, to become one, but you're also your own person. So that insecurity, once you identify that you have an insecurity, whilst I understand the role that your spouse has to play to make you feel secure, you also have to work on it. You know why? Because I believe that insecurities are like termites.
They can fester.
They fester and they keep on eating. into the fabric of your relationship, and before you know it, it completely destroys the relationship. And if you're hearing from the woman or hearing from the man, you understand that they were valid enough to be insecure, but understand that in as much as it's valid for you to be insecure because you've seen certain things that make you feel insecure, also know that insecurity as well, it could damage your relationship.
Exactly.
So you need to ensure that you're working on that insecurity, because before you know it, today it's an attitude you're giving your husband.
Tomorrow malice.
It is, yes, it's malice, or it's a silent treatment you're giving your wife. In 2 weeks' time is that you people haven't spoken in 1 week. In 3 weeks, maybe in 3 months' time, is that the last time you people fought, it was 1 week. Now is now 2 weeks, and before you know it, it begins to fester and it begins to damage your relationship.
Now, there's something that just came to mind, because I've spoken with, so there was someone I used to date, and I asked, when the whole opera from what Pastor Iya Deboye said. So I was just having, how you feel like, maybe I can spend my life with you. So me, big head, I went to ask him, you say, a man cannot cater for me. Imagine a man serving me tea with muscle hands.
Oh yeah, there are men who actually don't like it when they have male assistants. They're like, that's all.
Yeah, he was like, how can a man ask me, sir, how did you sleep? Are you okay?
I feel like this also brings to question, when you go to the spa, a man will never allow a male masseuse.
And they will never allow one on their woman as well.
But they will never allow a male masseuse for their women. So that's a question to you, men, if you're watching this. Why is it that your preference when you go to the spa is a female masseuse, and if your wife also goes to the spa, you would rather she also has a female masseuse and not a male masseuse? Isn't that double standard?
If you, let's call Lagos Fire Service first.
All right, Mr. Ben, very quickly, we have just a few seconds to go. Let's hear you.
Okay, we should not get to see the office husband and office wife.
That's another conversation for another day. Not today.
This office, if your office get level, though, people that are self-employed, it depends on the privacy. When you are with somebody inside office where there is nobody that can enter, it is very dangerous. There is no strong man. It depends on how the girl is determined to seduce the man. There is no strong man, I'm telling you the truth. A family friend, a woman died, and her daughter was begging my wife to come and stay with her. I told my wife, say no, that I can follow. My wife said, yes, I can follow.
I love that you're honest. Thank you so much. All right, thank you.
I honestly, I don't agree. I don't want it to be a case where, in the case where it is a relationship between two adults, you have now put more of the responsibility on the woman. Let's move past that. Whilst I understand that there is shared responsibility because they are adults, don't say, it is the extent to which a woman can seduce a man that makes a man fall. No. Like I mentioned, you're holding men to too little a standard. They're not animals. They're human beings. I'm not a man, so I can't really speak, as deeply as other men could. But based on what I've also heard other men say, it's also a thing of discipline. Like, let's not make it seem as if, because she wore that dress that she wore, and oh my goodness, he could not resist and he fell. He's not an animal. He's a human being. So let's not now make it seem as the case of infidelity. Now, whilst I understand, like, there are women, we've seen videos of maybe the wife going to confront the side chick, and a lot of people are like, we don't agree, go and fight your husband. I always say, and this is the way I say it, the fact that the husband takes responsibility does not mean that the side chick takes any less responsibility. She's an adult.
She's an accomplice as well.
No, she's an adult. So yes, he, as a man, stepped out on his marriage, which was him desecrating, the sanctity of his marriage, the vows that he made to the woman. And the woman also understanding, or rather the side chick also understanding, that this is a man that is married. This is a man that has gone to the altar with his wife and still choosing to carry on in that relationship with him. She also takes responsibility. So let's not, I feel like let's go past that mentality of, is the man's responsibility, as if there is scarcity of responsibility.
I've heard this from men that, even all the men in the Bible fell except Moses, and that's why Moses had such a temper, because he was so faithful. I don't know if that's true, but I'm like, Moses, come and strike this person with this rock. All right, very quickly, let's take this WhatsApp call. Lagos Talks, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, ladies. Good afternoon, Paula.
Hi.
Good afternoon. How's it going?
I'm fine, I'm Hakim with this.
All right, Hakim, let's hear you very quickly. We have a few seconds.
Okay, as for why men prefer a female masseuse for themselves and their other woman when they go to the spa, it's simple. It's a form of homophobia. The fact is, there are men, if their wife cheats with another man, it doesn't bother them. If the wife cheats with another woman and they find out, men, it doesn't really bother us as much as if it is a fellow man that the woman has been sleeping with. So when it's just what it is. So, the fear, a man goes, obviously the reason the man doesn't want another man touching him is like, my guy, it's homophobia. There's no way around it. Why you don't want
Abdul-Hakim, what about a woman who has another woman touching her? Isn't that kind of like akin to lesbianism?
It doesn't bother men. That's what I'm telling you. A man finds out. I'm not joking about this. So a man finds out, oh, my wife or girlfriend has some woman she's seen on the side. Some of us men, our belief is that you should have told me now so I can join you guys.
Okay, Abdul-Hakim, thank you. I think this is after dark.
That's how it is. Hilarious. It's not a hidden thing. That's how men.
All right, thank you so much. Ooh.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon,
sir. Something from Berigbe. Good afternoon, studio. Please, when I got married, because actually my wife's sister was staying with us. So I told my wife that when we got married, you are going to tell your sister to go back to his mother's place because anything can happen. I don't want temptation. I beg of you. So my wife actually did what I told her to do. That is me for sure. Because I'm talking from my own experience. I might not want that, but the girl can keep coming. So I just have to do what is the needful from the early start before it gets too late. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies in the studio. Hot topic today is on fire. We need to call fire service. Ify, I get your point too, but R. Kelly and Beyonce said, if you were a boy, then you will truly understand. It's not easy. The temptation is real on men. Do you understand? I agree with the last caller. Men tend to fall easily for the temptations, and you guys should cut off some slacks. Comforter from Surulere.
So if cutting some slack means that we should tolerate
permit you to do it once in a while,
then I don't think you're going to get that. I mean, there are women who don't mind that, and that's why I always advise, find your type, marry your type. There are women who do not mind. There are women who already are of the opinion that there is no man born of a woman that does not cheat. They're out there and they're beautiful as well, and some of them intelligent. So how about you explore, check them out and get married to them. It's as simple as. And I feel like you need to align with people who align with your principles and your values, so that you don't have all these arguments on social media. Oh no, why don't you allow the men? There are women who allow that. So go and find out. But then if you're also, from what he's saying, if you're saying that men fall easily and stuff like that, there are men who come out to say, oh no, I know that it's a thing of discipline.
If you want to be a part of us, first off, follow us across all social media pages at Lagos Talks 913 is our handle, and of course kindly like, share, subscribe, and make sure you're a part of the Lagos Talks family.